Hey, Sarah J, how you doing today?
I'm well. I'm so happy to be here at Fashion Talks another week.
Another week. I can't wait to get into the episode, but I'm loving your fuchsia headband.
Thank you for noticing. It's rather 3D for those of us who are listening at home and not watching. Um, the things that I'm wearing today are extra special because they have been created and designed very local to me here in the west end of Toronto in Parkdale, Roncesvalles. The headband that I'm wearing is none other than Dorian Hu. And
Ooh, love.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the hoodie that I'm wearing this week is one of my favorite upcycled streetwear brands. It's a weird time to be alive.
Facts.
Cass, the creative director, no kidding. Cass, the creative director, is a dear friend and perhaps the most committed social activist I can name. Her work includes a ready-to-wear line and also phenomenal, extraordinary, artful upcycles. I have a 3D happy face and chainmail and a padlock that is three-dimensional that was customized on the front of this hoodie. So it's one of my favorite pieces. So
Can
um,
you can you stand up and give us a visual of that? Like you can't like tease with those details and not reveal.
sure thing. I have some puppies on my lap, but this is what we're dealing with here.
Oh, hello.
Check out this lock. Can you even believe it?
That's super cool.
Yes. So I'm so happy to be representing brands made close to home.
Well, you know what? We are aligned and we didn't even know it because I am also wearing a brand very close to home. My like lovely, soft, basic, but amazing t-shirt is a brand called Renault. And I bought it at the Withrow Farmers Market this summer, like down the street from my house. And she also makes amazing 100% cotton pajamas, which are my new favorite thing. I probably could have worn them and just pressed them, and maybe I will. And then I've also got Majuri is this necklace, and
Beautiful.
these earrings, which I've had forever, is a Kat Jenga,
Oh,
another Toronto designer.
awesome. I love your mixed metals and I love it with a red lip.
I love a black top and a red lip.
Yes.
And did you notice the big news that got released yesterday in the fashion world about CAFA?
You know what? I did, and it's very, very exciting.
It,
CAPA, for those who might not know, stands for the Canadian Arts and Fashion Awards. How many years are we into CAPA this year, Donna? What would
I
you say?
believe this is year 12.
Yeah. And usually the event is held in Toronto and it's known as sort of the Canadian Fashion Academy Awards. It's our Oscars. It's a real night to shine. And it's an event that was founded by our friend Vicky Milner, who has community organized us in such a beautiful way.
Beautiful way. She
Giving,
is a force of nature, really wanting to create community and celebration around the fashion industry, coast to coast to coast to coast.
yes. And so this year, it's going to be held in Montreal.
I think this is so exciting.
Yeah, I do too. I was actually born in Montreal. I have a special love for the city for sure. But more generally, I think it represents the decentralization of fashion that is so, so important. Canada is such a huge country. Fashion happens in every city and town. And it'll just give a bit more of an opportunity for local designers to participate. Of course, it's going to mean greater representation amongst French speaking Canada, which is so important. And I'm really excited. Um,
I'm super excited. A very um I have a lot of enthusiasm for Montreal, but I'm not really familiar with the city. It's not a place I've gone many, many, many times, but I've always loved it when I've gone. But they have such an ecosystem there for arts and culture generally, but the fashion scene there with designers established, independent in all kinds of, areas of aesthetic and history with their brand is super exciting. Super exciting. I can't wait.
Me neither. I think it's a great move to have made, and I look forward to attending.
Yes,
Yes.
April, here we come. But before we go to CAFA, we're going to go to Project Runway,
Oh my goodness, Donna, what a week. What a week.
episode 3.
We knew that a no elimination policy wasn't going to last.
Nope. Nope. And we'll certainly get to that. I mean, it's not a spoiler. Everyone has watched, but it's so double eliminations are always a double heartbreak. Um, so hard to see such talented designers leave the show, but that's the nature of the container, right?
It really, really is. But lots of important lessons, lots of important highlights, lots of honorable mentions. So let's get to it.
Let's get to it. So this is the team challenge. And some designers were a little more vocal about their displeasure of this than others.
Yeah,
It's kind of like sitting in high school, geography and being told you're going to have a group project. Some people go, ugh. But life is a team project sometimes. What do you think about teams and fashion in terms of it just being kind of a metaphor for what's to come in the world?
fashion is a team sport. Design is a team sport. Creating visuals and imagery is a team sport. And team skills are so important to learn and hone and be open to. That said, I think that a lot of independent designers, um, have learned to do every piece of the puzzle themselves. And I think ultimately that serves you in a team context as well, being able to know a little bit about each role that is required to create the final product. And of course, for sure, most of us would be able to identify or define that we are better on our own or maybe better on a team. It's okay to have, an aptitude or a preference, but I think that it's so important to be open to a team environment, and to learn those skills, the skills of communication, collaboration, um, giving feedback, leadership, mentorship. There's room for all of that in real life if we try to use this reality TV example as some kind of a proxy or a starting point for what a career in fashion could look like.
Absolutely. And the communication piece is often, I think, kind of the hardest to negotiate in these, team environments in fashion or otherwise. Because how do you create a cohesive collection? That's something that, is part of the brief, right? Like, not so, first of all, how cool were the fabrics that were
Really cool.
being incorporated into this team challenge?
Yeah, really cool. Really great shout out to the innovation going on at TMU. Super interesting fabrics. Not necessarily the easiest. I think there were challenges technically with those fabrics, but that's part of the challenge overall. We don't always get to choose every part of the creative process. Sometimes things are given to us, and we have to do the best with what we're given.
And I mean, it's a future challenge, avant garde, looking to the future, and our textiles will continue to evolve and change. And sometimes early iterations of them are not the most easy to work with. But I'm thinking of how vegan leather has evolved, over the years as a textile that had really significant challenges at the beginning, and now there's like more successful versions of it in terms of malleability and feel and stuff like that.
For sure. And in real life, again, one might not be required to be an expert right off the bat. There would be a trial and error and learning curve period that, let's face it, we just don't have in the context of Project Runway.
I was wondering if they got a chance to touch the fabrics before they got to choose.
It didn't look like it.
It did
I
not.
wonder I wonder if that's the way things were edited, or that might have been the way things really happened. They just got to see visually and were given the description by Coco.
Because it did look like two were a little more flexible and would be, I make air quotes, easier to work with
Yeah.
than the other two.
Yep. Despite it all, I think we saw really interesting incarnations and uses of the fabrics, in a really challenging challenge, maybe an especially challenging challenge.
Absolutely. So something I wanted to ask you about was, part of the brief is that they're creating a collection in the teams, right? Like, so each designer is making their own piece, but it has to be cohesive. And like, how does that come about? Like, is it Is it because the fabrics are consistent? Is it a vibe? Like, in your experience, what does it mean when like, do you just kind of know? How do you create that kind of cohesion?
This is a great question. And I suppose simply, I would say that it's all of the above, more or less. It is cohesive when we say and know it is cohesive. That can look and feel a number of different ways, but it can come, it can be led by a story or a concept or a narrative. It's something that can build, and each look can reference the previous one. It can look, many different ways. And of course, how we present what we're working on is part of it too. Are we styling for a runway show, which we are in this case? But if we're thinking of how sometimes runway shows are presentations where we see every model at the same time. It's not one after the other. Sometimes we are, the creative output is a lookbook or a campaign or it's an editorial. We have to think of how the viewer or the audience or the client is going to receive what we're working on. But in this case, I think that we definitely saw that team fashion, led by Leland, really had strong communication. And I think that showed up in the form of Leland's leadership, that was evidenced in terms of the types of conversations that we're having between teammates, a degree of sort of peer review and peer feedback, if you will, which I think is very important.
Not
Working,
always comfy though.
not always comfy, but it's a really important skill to learn how to give and receive feedback in
Yeah.
probably in any and every industry. But I think that those of us who continue to work in fashion have a particular knack for the art of feedback, and being able to remain resilient when we receive feedback as well. So I think that really shone through for team fashion.
I think it might have even been Leland who said during the runway show, like, they all look like they live in the same universe.
Yes. And that really is the measure of cohesion, really. Something that I've been known to say is that we're all in the same band, or we're all on the same
Yes.
album cover, or we are all, on the same team. So any of those analogies really speak to the sort of intangible and highly variable definitions of cohesion.
Who were you excited to see in the top 3 this week?
Oh my goodness. Well, I fully agree with Foster, Leland, and Charles in the top three. I think that they were so strong. I am especially excited for Charles to be recognized. As you know, I have loved his looks for the past couple of weeks, and this Madame Butterfly, this
Ah,
clear architectural moment was quite powerful, and I'm so happy for him. I'm so happy to see it. And of course, Leland is such a consistent competitor, and I'm a huge fan. And then thirdly, I think it was a really interesting and special week for Foster. I think that, you know, just judging on his final look, absolutely exceptional, interesting, versatile, technically so strong. But there's a really important moment that deserves acknowledgement early on, which was when his model didn't show up.
oh, could you imagine?
Donna, I can more than imagine.
You're like, "I've lived this."
Totally. The reality, oh my goodness, if I had a dime for every time a model hasn't shown up, especially in the context of runway. So it's very difficult when that happens, and he handled it with about as much grace as anyone could, with his sense of humor intact. That quiff about Tyson Beckford was,
Oh my gosh, that was the best.
what an absolute star. I think that a lot of others, on the show may have reacted to that news quite differently. And he was the consummate professional in that moment. And, facing adversity with your sense of humor intact, gold star. Gold star for Foster for sure.
I also loved that Foster talked about when he was conceptualizing that he went to a place where in the future we will still value things that exist now. So that leaning into tailoring in a specific way was another way of him thinking future avant-garde, which I thought was a really clever and very, very smart approach.
I think so too. We're not going to throw it all away. There will be some things and some skills and things that we will always value, I think, as central to good design.
I think so too. And I agree with you, agree with the show. Like, yes, yes, and yes to the top three this week. Big fan of Leland as well. But Charles's piece was just, I could see it in the future and I can see it today. And it just had such a beauty and a weight and an etherealness to it. Like there's so many paradoxes in his designs sometimes with weight and volume and whatnot. I this was my favorite one of his so far.
Me too. I think the other thing worth acknowledging is that Aurora gave some feedback to the team that the materials they were given needed to be visible and needed to be highlighted. So a lot of the details that were added were a response to that feedback. He took that feedback and he took it and ran, and really the final product really couldn't have been better.
It was great to see that moment, like where he, look, because feedback when you're like, oh my gosh, we haven't done something, like the anxiety of that is so high. But for him to say, yeah, she's right,
Hmm.
we got to change this concept
Hmm.
was a great feedback execution moment for
Yep.
that whole team.
Yep. Again, he could have panicked and shut down and handled it, 100 other ways, but he responded to the feedback and saw possibilities instead of obstacles, and he rose to the occasion, and the outcome was fantastic.
Yeah, so good. Can't wait for next week. And the other team too, it's they did such a great job. Like the talent across both teams
Mhm.
is fantastic.
It's true. I think that, you know, perhaps the outcome for Team Ford could be, explained by difficulties in communication, by folks working too individually and not enough check-ins, not enough sort of opportunities for collaboration and giving and receiving feedback, um, which is so important. There's the task at hand, there's the skills that the designers arrive with, but there's also this other piece of communication on a team, so essential.
And very sadly, we're going to be saying goodbye to Naimo and Taalrumiq, two designers who I really enjoyed seeing what they brought each week. What are you going to miss about these two designers on the show? The double whammy just hurts double harp.
I know it really does. I feel grateful that these designers had 3 weeks to show us what they had. I think that it's really tough because the challenges presented don't always play to a designer's strengths, but I I think that there really is a difference that we see across the board in terms of experience and ability to work under the extreme pressure of the show's parameters. And I hope that in both cases, both designers understand that it may not have worked for them here, but they have so much to offer. Fashion is such a huge industry, and there are so many required skill sets and places to really shine and contribute. And success on the show doesn't always translate into success in the real world. So I really wish them well. I have a couple of shout outs, perhaps. One of which pertains to Kat's look. I think Kat's look was quite criticized. If we look to figure skating, we have artistic impression and technical merit. And I think that there's a place to approach judging of fashion the same way. I think that artistically, the judges may not have, you know, been picking up what she was putting down, so to speak. But
Hmm.
technically, her look was beautifully sewn and quite strong technically. And so I'm glad to see that she was given another shot. I think she deserves that.
Those pants were beautiful, and the the fabric to me looked like it might have been the kind of fabric where flaws would be very obvious,
Mm.
that it would be a very, it's a risky fabric because if things weren't perfect, you'd really be able to see that they were not perfect. So I had a lot of respect for her, for her design that night.
Yeah, me too. And then in terms of Dolarumic, wow, I think her storytelling really, really shone. When she described her look, I loved hearing the words climate change. She dressed a warrior, and her narrative and the character that she imagined, and her ability to communicate that was absolutely beautiful. And
I so agree.
that really is a skill set that is valuable in this industry. The ability to copyright and describe and come up with the comms and the marketing and all of that. Um, there are places for those skills, and that really shone through to me. She also mentioned the importance of representation. We know that. We know that to see an example, especially from, you know, underrepresented groups, is so important. So she has inspired a generation of designers that will come after her.
I loved her storytelling as well. I love the word warrior when it comes out for any any, female especially that's walking down the runway. Um, I really appreciated how both Dolarumic and Nemo often talked about wanting to bring influences of their culture into their designs.
Mhm.
So important, so beautiful, and to see it done in conjunction with this, you know, capital F fashion container of the show, to see those two things dance together each week was really great.
I hope they can leverage this opportunity to increase visibility, to take away some lessons. They are so brave to have participated and put themselves out there. I have such respect for what it takes, and I really look forward to seeing what they both contribute and create in future.
Myself as well.